Hey everyone, hi, welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be doing some Booker predictions for the upcoming list, the long list here in 2024, and I'm excited to go through this process with you. I'm doing it a little bit different, I think, than anyone that I've seen doing predictions. So I'll tell you all about it when we get into the meat of the video, but I'm actually kind of excited about the Booker in 2024. And we'll talk about that in a minute. If you're new to my channel, then here's what I would like to tell you. First, welcome, hi to everyone. But if you're new here, then a special welcome to you. I am Shelly. I really love a list. I love book prizes. And I love reading, and I love talking about my reading. I love all of that, and I have a whole channel dedicated to the topic. If you also like that kind of stuff and you're liking the vibes, I would encourage you to subscribe. Please like the video. And without any further rambling on, let's go ahead and get into the meat of this video. Let me give you a touch of context about me and book prizes, and maybe particularly the Booker. So I've always kept, for my entire adult life, I've always kept abreast of what's winning prizes. Whenever it crossed my mind, I would sort of get to my computer and look up, like, you know, what's winning the prize in whatever year I was living in at that time. So I feel like I've always kind of kept kind of in the know of what's going on, though I've never really been a super dedicated prize follower. Maybe bar, sans the Pulitzer. I've always had a special soft spot in my heart for the Pulitzer. But regardless, we're talking about the Booker. So in 2022, on my channel here, I went full force into the Booker. I read tons of books on the long list. I did Booker predictions. I was like in it. And it was an interesting experience. And from that experience, I realized that I don't really want the Booker or any prize really to take over my entire reading life like the Booker did in 2022. So in 2023, I kind of swung the opposite direction. I did some videos about it, and what I kind of realized was not a lot of books were capturing my attention in terms of the long list for 2023 and the short list. I was like, I don't know, there's this really, really big book that everyone seems to love called The Bee Sting by Paul Murray, but it wasn't super available to me when the long and short lists were going on, and I didn't have exactly the most amount of time as like a full-time working person to dedicate to like really diving into the long and short list. And again, I didn't want to give my entire reading life to a prize. So I actually I slowly let it go, and it took a lot of like processing and sort of figuring out that I really didn't want to read anything from the Booker in 2023. Now I want to read The Bee Sting by Paul Murray because I've heard it's kind of like the unofficial winner, meaning that it's the book that readers seem to love the most. And so in 2023, I read nothing, I think, from the Booker, although I kept my eye on what was happening. And then now in 2024, I'm kind of like not really in the know for the new releases, but I have a solution for that. And I'm curious about the Booker. So what is somebody who's curious about the Booker, but not really in the know for the new releases going to do about a Booker predictions video? That's where we're at right now. And what we're going to do is that I'm going to look with you at the forum that talks about what is eligible for the Booker in 2024, and we're going to go through that together. I hope I haven't lost all of y'all. So there is this Goodreads group that I feel like anyone who is really into prizes, any person who is just trying to get their finger on the pulse with the Booker knows about this Goodreads group, this Goodreads like list thing, and it's Booker eligible books for 2024, and they have one for every year that at least I've been following the Booker super closely. There's like a long list of books that are potentials or possibilities. They actually make the criteria to be the book, within the Booker realm, whether they were submitted for judging or whatnot. Nobody really knows that part of it, but there are people out there who are keeping this list, and it's Goodreads, it's sort of like crowdsourced a little bit, and they're keeping a list of what potentially could be on the Booker, and it's literally called Booker eligible books for 2024. So I'm going to go through that list with you. I have I've looked at it teeny little bit. I've mostly shielded my eyes because I wanted this to be a live reaction to it, and we can see, for somebody who doesn't know much about new releases right now, we can see like maybe what tickles my fancy, what books actually strike a chord with me. Maybe we'll dive into it. And I'm going to actually show you my screen recording of these books, okay? So I'm gonna do that now. While I'm looking, and I might be skipping some titles, but I will show you my whole screen recording while I'm chatting with you. And if you see a title that just is standing out to you, is like really calling out to you, that you think might be part of the Booker, please, if you feel so inclined, leave a comment down below. That would be amazing. So I'm gonna start recording and we'll look at this together. So it's literally called Booker Prize Eligible 2024. And then there is some rules. They literally link to like the Booker Prize official site, and it says, please do not add a book unless you're absolutely sure it will be eligible according to the official rules. And so this is the further down, the top of the list is the most popular, and the further down you go, the less likely it's either eligible or the less likely it's gonna, I don't know. The further down you go, it starts to get a little hairy down there. You're like, is that, you get in the weeds of things, but at the top is the cream of the crop. So at the very top, we have James by Percival Everett, which I read. I loved. I love that book. I would love to see it on the Booker long list, short list. I'd love to see it win the Booker, to be honest with you. And I think it might have at least a little bit of potential to it, because Percival Everett has been shortlisted for the Booker before. He was shortlisted for the Booker in 2022. So James is kind of like high on my list. All right, next is My Friends by Hashim Matar. I only know this name because I did the whole best 100 books according to the New York Times. I did that video, and Hashim Matar, one of his books was one of the top 100 of the 21st century. I know nothing about My Friends. Should we look at it real quick? Oh my gosh, I love a friendship book. Hashim Matar has been shortlisted for the Booker and has won the Pulitzer Prize. Oh yeah, for The Return. Oh yeah, I think that the book that Matar was honored for in the 100 best books according to the New York Times of the 21st century, blah, blah, blah. I think it was a memoir-esque book about his father, I think. I might be wrong, and I will try and, correct myself if I am wrong. Okay, Clear. Moving on. Clear by Karis Davies. I only know Davies' name because I was watching Simon Savage, who was really excited about Davies. And so Clear is her latest novel. Should we see what it's about? I think she's a poet. It's about a remote island off of Scotland. Clear, the last remaining inhabitant who has no intention of leaving. An unforgettable tale of resistance, change, and hope. Okay, John, an impoverished Scottish minister, has accepted a job evicting the lone remaining occupant of an island north of Scotland, Ivar. So that sounds interesting. I almost bought a Davies book when I went my last big haul. I almost bought a Karis. I wanted to say, keep on wanting to say Claris, but no, that's because it's Clear and Karis together. A Karis Davies book. When I went used bookstore shopping, it wasn't Clear, it was something else. But it was solely because Simon Savage had such raving things to say about her. I will leave Simon's channel down below, and I will leave other people who I adore and respect. I will leave their YouTube channels and their predictions videos listed down below in case you were like in it like me and you want to see other people's predictions that are maybe a little more in the know than I personally am. Okay, I'm going to skip the books that I really don't know much about. So I don't know much about The Road to the Country, and I'm not going to keep on saying the names. Okay, Blackouts by Justin Torres. We the Animals also made it to that list, the 100 best books according to the New York Times. Okay, We the Animals by Justin Torres made that. And so Blackouts is supposed to be about queer history and the things that we erase from history. It's supposed to have some, experimental things going on, like words marked out, literal like Sharpie blackouts to erase certain history, even though there's a narrative in it all. I think people are liking it, but I don't really know. I just know that I saw it as like one of the books to watch out for, also from the New York Times. I think last year it was like one of the New York Times, it was a New York Times book darling. And it continues to get like some buzz, I guess. Wellness by Nathan Hill. Okay, Steve Donahue put Wellness by Nathan Hill on his top 10 books for 2023. So if Wellness made it to, like on the long list for the Booker, I'm telling you right now, I would be very interested in it. Nathan Hill is supposed to have a really, I don't know, he's supposed to be funny and very enjoyable, like not taking things too seriously. I think the tone of his writing, it's supposed to be like actually funnier than most people expected. And so I'm quite interested in that book. Okay, the next book is Praiseworthy by Alex Wright. I think Britta Bowler just read this. I'm going to leave these people linked down below. I feel like I'm just name dropping here. I'm not trying to do that. I just keep all of my book news, I know, because of BookTube. Praiseworthy is an Australian, set in the north of Australia. I think she is an Australian. It's a long book. It is a 736 page book. I think that this is experimental enough, and it's weird enough, and it's odd enough to be a BookTube eligible book. Like, I think, because the book, not BookTube, Booker, the Booker eligible book. Have I been saying BookTube this whole time? I don't know. We're not going down that trail. But here's the deal. So Praiseworthy is an epic set in the north of Australia, told with the richness of language and scale of imagery for which Alex Wright has become renowned. It's a small town, Aboriginal people. I've heard it's different. It's a different book, and it takes a good bit amount of your focus. And the Booker tends to like experimental books, so I feel like this Praiseworthy has like it really kind of screams Booker on there, even though it's not been rated very much. Okay, Martyr. I don't know what this is about. Okay, but I keep on seeing Martyr pop up. And then let's just see what it's about in case you don't know. But I know that people have been loving it. Martyr is going to be following a young man named Cyrus. It sounds a little bit coming of age story, but a spin on it. It sounds interesting and promising. So Cyrus's mother dies in a tragic accident. He has immigrated to America with his father, who is now working a job. His father's working a job slaughtering chickens, and Cyrus is not a great person, addicted to alcohol and just kind of slumming it up. And from there, I think his life transforms. It's supposed to be funny, original, and quite profound. So an immigrant experience novel from the Iranian perspective, an Iranian American. So that sounds interesting. I can see a coming of age story against the odds kind of book that also has a conversation about art, really kind of tickling a lot of literary readers' fancy. Are we also doing Anti-Booker Books Parade by Rachel Cusk? I have never wanted to read anything by Rachel Cusk. I don't know. So I see that and I'm like, ugh. If I saw that on the long list, I would immediately be like, no, thank you. Oh, Long Island by Colm Tobin. I don't know if I'm saying that name right. So this is the follow-up to Brooklyn, which I haven't read either. I've heard that Brooklyn is really good, and some people have a little bit of trepidation when sequels enter the list. I don't know. I guess what I'm saying for me is that if I see If I see Long Island by Tobin, I don't know. If I see Long Island by Tobin, then I think I would probably want to read Brooklyn, and depending on how I got along with Brooklyn, it would really shape like whether I would want to read Long Island. Ooh, we have Day by Michael Cunningham. He wrote that book about Virginia Woolf. The Hours. He wrote The Hours. Michael Cunningham wrote The Hours, which is about Virginia Woolf and Mrs. Dalloway, the book Mrs. Dalloway. It's a really good book. It was really good. It's fantastic. And so Day is his new, actually I don't really care what it's about. Let's think. If we do care what it's about, family life, about love, loss, and struggle. There we go. But mostly I know Michael Cunningham, and I did quite like The Hours. I thought it was a beautiful, quiet book. I probably would be better on a reread, though I haven't reread it yet. Oh, The Heaven and Earth Grocery Store by James McBride. I think this is, like, again, kind of a Booker darling. Readers out there will want to see this on the list. So it's set in 1972, Pottstown, Pennsylvania. I'm probably like the last person on earth who has not read this book. I'm like the only person out there who has not read this book. But it is about the gentrification of this neighborhood. And there is actually a grocery store that is nestled in a neighborhood in which Jewish immigrants and African Americans live side by side, and it's about that experience, I believe. I don't know much about it, but I don't know. James McBride, I believe my mom read his memoir, and she said it was amazing. I own it. I own 2 copies of it at one point because my mom gave me a copy after I had bought a copy. And she said it was really good. James McBride, I believe, had a Jewish mother and an African American or a Black father. And so this is the book I don't think is autofiction in any way, but I do think he writes from a place of confidence when he writes about the experience of mixing of, or the interactions between Black culture and Jewish culture. All right, so The Vulnerables by Sigrid Nunez. I don't know what this is about, but this also made it, I think, to Steve Donahue's Best of Fiction in 2023. So I've been kind of interested in it, so let me see what this is about. Female solitary narrator who opens her heart to strangers and the connections they form. That's what I got from it. I'm more interested in it because Steve has said it was really good, and so I feel like if the booker is also like, we wanted to honor Nunez. Oh my gosh. Wow. We want to honor this new book, The Vulnerables, by this author. then I would be like, I want to get in on that conversation. For someone who doesn't keep up with new releases, I had a lot to say about a lot of books. Okay, we're just scrolling here at this point. Oh, Wandering Stars by Tommy Orange. Didn't he write There, and that was a pretty big book? Okay, the booker really doesn't like commercial fiction or anything that even has a whiff of commercial fiction. So I wonder if, I don't know. I guess we'll see. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like if something even is remotely similar to commercial fiction, the booker will kind of poo-poo it. The description is very long, in my honest opinion. I think this encapsulates the novel pretty well. So it says Star, which is the name of the main character that we're following, who is a young survivor of the Sand Creek Massacre, is brought to the Fort Marion prison castle where he is forced to learn English, practice Christianity by Richard Henry Pratt, an evangelical prison guard who will go on to found the Carlisle Indian Industrial School, an institution dedicated to the eradication of Native history, culture, and identity. A generation later, Star's son Charlie is sent to the school where he is brutalized by a man who was once his father's jailer. So, I think generational trauma plays a part in this novel. It sounds interesting, but again, I think it's like if I would see Wandering Stars on the long list. I'm getting a plan in my head right now. I'm like thinking through when I see the long list and if I see some of these titles, or what's likely going to happen, I'm not going to see any of these titles. I won't have any idea like, there's just gonna be a whole bunch of nobodies on the list, and I will be like starting from scratch. But if I see Wandering Stars by Tommy Orange, the thing that I will want to do is I will want to pick up There, Then. So that is that is the plan, I think. Oh, okay. So we have Tell Me Everything by Elizabeth Strout. I think this is the book that brings together all of her worlds. So the Lucy Barton series, I think the Burgess Boys, and the Olive Kittredge. All the universes collide, I think, in this Tell Me Everything novel or short story collection. I don't know. Yeah, Lucy Barton. Oh yeah, I was right. Lucy Barton, Olive Kittredge, Bob Burgess. Nice. And they all the worlds collide in this book. Elizabeth Strout has been longlisted a couple of times before, so I kind of think that she might have an opportunity for this year as well. Titles that are familiar to me, but I am just going to kind of skim through. Real Americans by Rachel Kong. This was picked by a celebrity for their celebrity book club, and it was getting quite a bit of buzz. I know the name Paul Auster, but I've never read anything by him. I know the name Andrew O'Hagan, but again, I've never read anything by him. I'm actually, Caledonian Road. Yeah, Mayflies. Mayflies was a booktube darling for a certain pocket of booktubers a couple of years ago by Andrew O'Hagan, and so that's why I know his name. Ooh, Jennifer Croft. She was a long list. She was on Jennifer Croft. Give me a second. I know Jennifer Croft. Jennifer Croft. I know the name. I know. Okay, so she translated Olga Turkutchev's book, The Books of Jacob, which was, I heard, a phenomenal read, which also was longlisted short. It was honored by the International Booker the year that it was eligible. We also saw Jennifer Croft pop up with Homesick. This book was, again, honored but for the Women's Prize, and now she has a new novel, The Extinction of Irina Ray, by obviously Jennifer Croft, because we're talking about her. So this is, my camera stopped recording as per usual. The Extinction of Irina Ray is just her new book. So I've seen her name around. Okay, Garth Greenwell, his novel Cleanness had a lot of hullabaloo. That word is really sticking out in my vocabulary today. But I never read it. I think the Times named it as like one of the best books for that year. But he has a new book that is a potential or an eligible book called Small Rain. All right, again, a whole bunch of books I don't really know. Okay, we're getting like further down the list. So I guess we'll see. All right, we're moving it along. Let's see, another title that, Jessamine Ward. So Jessamine Ward, her name popped up 3 different times. She was one of 3 authors that popped up 3 times on the best 100 books in the 21st century according to the New York Times. Let Us Descend is Ward's latest novel, and so I could see readers wanting to see her pop up on the long list. Julia by Sandra Newman. It's a feminist retelling of George Orwell's 1984. It got a little bit of hullabaloo here. Gosh, I need to stop saying that. People were talking about it here on BookTube a few months ago, but I'm surprised to see it again. See, the thing is like sometimes you just totally forget that a book that was published in January is eligible, like, for this year's Booker. And it's just like it had its moment, it died down, and then you see it again pop up and you're like, oh yeah, I remember when people were talking about it. Nice to see you again. It's like seeing an old friend. But I don't really have too much of an interest in reading that book. Richard Powers has a new book called Playground. I'm sure it's going to be doing that thing, that thing that Richard Powers does, which is a slightly sentimental story about relationships in nature. Oh, Richard Flanagan, he won the Booker a few years back. I had his Booker winning novel, and then I ended up decluttering it. I forget what it was called, but this is going to be set in the 1930s. It's a about nuclear physics and Hiroshima. The atomic bomb. Interesting. Though I'm not really super interested in Richard Flanagan. Tim O'Brien. He is the author of The Things We Carried, which is, for a lot of people, really my husband really loves that book. And it's about, I believe, soldiers in Vietnam and the actual items they carried. And it all has more meaning than what I am conveying. But he has a new book, America Fantastica. So I wonder if that will pop up. I've been curious about him for a long time. Kate Greenville, who was shortlisted for this year's Women's Prize for Restless Dolly Maunder, is eligible, and so is River East, River West by Audrey Ray Lescure, who also was honored by the Women's Prize this year. Elif Shafak's forthcoming novel, There Are Rivers in the Sky, is eligible, so I wonder if that will maybe make some like get a little splash. But it's a forthcoming novel, which always kind of bugs readers, you know, people who want to read everything now. They have to wait for the book to come out. But just wanted to mention, I've read The Island of Missing Trees by her, and I didn't love it, but I think that 10 minutes and 38 seconds in this world, or something like that, I think I would like more from what I know about that novel. Happiness Falls by Angie Kim, which is an author who wrote Miracle Creek. Both books have been pretty well received, I believe. Again, it's a book that was published quite a while back, so I'm surprised that it's like, oh, I remember you. Come and Get It by Kylie Reed is available, although I don't know what people are saying about it. I don't think it's very good. Oh gosh, it got a 3.39 on Goodreads. Okay, yeah, people are not really loving this. Loving that book, but it's there, okay, it's there. It's eligible. Intermezzo by Sally Rooney is supposedly eligible. I am actually going to stop this look through right now. So I just wanted to like go through this with you, and like, I don't know what my predictions are, but I think I've sussed out some of my feelings in terms of like There There by Tommy Orange and Brooklyn by Colum Tobin. Things like that. Like if we see those on the list, I think I already know what my move is going to be, which is going to be reading their other things, their backlisted books. Same thing with Tim O'Brien. I would rather read The Things They Carried than his brand new novel. So it's interesting to see what's eligible, what's tickled my fancy in some ways, like what I might want to pick up. But you know, the Booker, I just wouldn't be surprised if like half of the titles on this eligibility list, like half of the long list is from these titles, and the other half is from indie presses that have such a few, you know, books out there. Like, I don't know what direction we're going to go, and the Booker might go in like the indie published press direction, which is totally fine and totally the Booker's prerogative, right? But if they do that, it means that most of those books are going to be missed on this Booker eligible list. But I did want to see what was eligible, and I know this whole list is a huge resource for booktubers out there, because you're always like, you know, does it make this Goodreads list? Because they're pretty good about keeping up on like what's eligible and what's not. So I did want to, you know, talk it through with you. What do you think is going to be on the Booker long list? I would be so curious to know. I feel like some years we get a real like beautiful mix of titles that I've seen and not heard of, and then not heard of, and all that. And it's this really wonderful, like, kind of fruit salad of a mix of a long list. And then other times I really feel like they did go in like the unknown direction. I felt like last year's list was like that. There were just so many titles that I had never heard of, I had never heard anyone talking about, and so it's kind of hard, for me at least, to start from scratch. I think I like a mix of both, not just popular titles, not just unknown titles, but like a good mix of both, because then there's the things to explore, and yet the comfort of knowing that I recognize titles out there and I'm not completely lost to the literary world. So yeah, that's it from me. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it, and I will see you all in my next one. Bye!